I really want to talk about the leadership mindset. And what I'd like to talk about is I'm big on trying to help guys that are transitioning, these guys that are doing anywhere from 12, 15, 20 to 30 years of soft service and are getting out and are questioning what the next step is, and how you took the skills that you had and how you evolved them into where you are today, and that mindset of leading in business, because it's unique. I mean, it's one of those where you're in a very, very competitive. I mean, the whiskey cigar business is about as competitive. Us and apparel. I mean, it's there's so many people. Everybody wants to put their name on whiskey right now, and it's tough.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a dogfight, and apparel's the same way because we're not in the apparel business, but we do have our swag and accessories, and even that gets a little complicated sometimes. But and whiskey and cigars are certainly a dogfight. I mean, anybody can slap a label on a whiskey and or a cigar and get into the fight. But how do you do it? Sustain it, make enough money to make it worth your while. But going back to the leadership thing, I was very, very, very fortunate, and we mentioned this the last time we spoke, to have been mentored by some of the greatest special operations leaders of their generation, the Vietnam veteran era, and then growing up as an SF baby in that community, there's things that stood out to me. It's like a lot of places I saw. I'm not knocking other places in the military, because there's a time and a place for every style of leadership, right? There's no magic formula for leadership, right? So that's why they call it an art, and it's not a science. But I always, based on what I saw, I always try to take the approach that, look, you can lead by just because you have control over a group of people, and they have to follow you. They will follow you a lot of times because they're afraid of the consequences if they don't. But they'll follow you until they find something else they're more afraid of. And when you're in a gunfight, that's a lot more scary than you are, right? So then they have to follow you out of respect for you and love for you and each other. And so I always tried to treat people that I worked with like they were paying customers, and then they could leave anytime they wanted, right? Because when things get really bad, they can leave and will, if you haven't done the work that you need to do before that, and building relationships not only with your subordinates but with your peers and your superiors. Things will fall apart because they don't have to follow you under those circumstances. They whether they should or not, that's debatable. But if they're following you because they're afraid of you, or because they're afraid of the consequences that you may bring to them if they don't do what you tell them, they'll do that until they find something that scares them more than you. And so you try to build relationships that are very personal and intimate, so that when you get into those situations, that everything holds up and sticks together. And you can apply that in business world too. And it's probably the best form of leadership in business, because people can quit anytime they want in business. They can do business with you or not do business with you based on that personal relationship. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not building a relationship with people, they can find somebody out there that's just as good and do business with them, right? Or they can find a whiskey that's very similar or just as good or maybe better and buy that. So they have a choice, right? And a lot of times, when you're in a very structured military environment, especially as a young guy, you don't always have that choice. But as soon as you do get to the point where you have a choice, then that's when you find out who the leaders are, I think, because people will choose to follow you or not based on how you treat them. And so I've always tried to apply that everywhere I've been. And at the end of the day, the relationships that you build in a lifetime, I think that's where the value is. It's a lot more important than how much money you make or how much fame you get. One of the things the greatest joys of my life is I have the ability to come down here and talk to you, talk to Rick, talk to my buddies over in England, talk to my buddies in the Ranger Battalion, and I have friends there. And those relationships are priceless to me. There's nothing I would trade those for. Not any amount of money, not any amount of fame or anything. Those relationships really are the story of your life. That's what's going to live long after you're gone. So I try to take that approach to leadership. It's a very personal thing. It's hey, look, we're a team. We got to get things done together. We're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. But we're going to, at the end, we're going to stick together and we're going to come through. And so that's kind of my leadership philosophy on it. It's nothing, written down. It's not magic. It's just my way. And I know there's other people out there that probably more successful as a leader than I was, but that's my way.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you why, because I've never said what you just said out loud, but listening to you, I think relationships are the cornerstone for everything. It's funny in my career, going back to the 160th is the most senior positions I ever held as a very senior flight lead. I always refer to the ground force as the customer. I exist for the customer. And there was a point when the war was booming, when I think I knew every troop chief, every troop sergeant major, every squadron sergeant major, every squadron master chief, and every CO at every leadership level because of our habitual relationship. And I could show up and high five an outgoing flight lead and look to the guys and be like, what are we doing tonight? And let's get it done. I've carried that forward to business. And it's funny now because the position I sit in, if I get a phone call from somebody and the first thing out of their mouth is they're asking me for something, that's not a relationship. It's, how are you doing, Bruno? What's going on? Catching up. How's the family? Whatever. That's a relationship to me. And that's how I think I am also building it without really thinking it through. What you just said is that I actually care about who I work with, and I care about my subordinates deeply. Like if you have people working for you and every time you're addressing them, it is a task and you don't even know if they have a spouse, kids, what's going on in their life, then you're missing the boat. You don't
It's
have
the most important part of it. What good does it do us to go out and do great things if we don't like the people we're doing it with? I just have no value in that. And you've got a great reputation that spans a lot of different disciplines. There's not too many people that can say they were in the Rangers and Special Forces and flew, especially at the level that you did it at. And to be able to have the reputation and maintain the reputation you have is really a credit to the way you treat people.
No,
right? So all that other stuff that you did is really, really cool. Stuff that most guys can't do. But the most important thing, as far as Norm Hooten's concerned, is that when it's all said and done, the people you met along the way and you work with along the way love you.
Ditto. And I love that. There's
going to be some of them that don't.
Yeah.
Right. And
it depends on the experience.
And that's okay. Because if you have to look back and go, hey, did I treat the person right? And if you can answer the question with a yes, then, screw them. Sometimes you have to say that, but doesn't mean everybody has to like you. But that's an important part of life is relationships you build.